Oh no, something like that. Um, this one might be like a 30 or 40 minute one. Honestly, I did like fuck all this month. Um, really just played a lot of games. If I'm being completely honest, I mean it was weird because last month I was out of it. I thought I was done being a gamer. I thought I was gonna have to like retire and shit like that. But no, season 9 of Rivals dropped and I've been playing that a lot. Been trying to finish up Fortnite because that shit pisses me off. I got into Darktide, obviously, in a pretty big way. Apex, of course. And probably going to say a little something about Dead Island 2 since I'm on the cusp of like 100%ing it. Well, I 100% the main game, the House DLC, and now I'm on the Sola DLC, but I'm going to finish that like today probably. But anyways, July. Probably talk more about games at the very end, but we'll see if I want to like pad time. But July, like yeah, like literally only saw like 5 movies this month. I didn't do shit. But yeah, just starting off, Old Henry, little bit of a western, sort of. Honestly, just like a really simple type of western, but more of like a modern one. I feel like with older westerns, obviously people will think about the more like cliches of westerns. But whenever I think about westerns, a lot of time it is just a bit more about atmosphere. It's about people just sort of like talking sometimes, and maybe there's a shootout, or maybe it's about the talking before the shootout sort of thing. But yeah, a lot of westerns, super atmospheric, and I think this one kind of captures it, but in a very modern way. It is sort of like a very modern way that these people are like communicating with each other, trying to sort of fish out this information from one another, see who's like telling the truth, and see if they can kind of figure out like who's hiding what. Because obviously with our main character, we'll just call him Old Henry. With Old Henry, he's kind of having a secret that he's hiding from his son, sort of in order to keep him safe. But I think there's like a switch, because one of my favorite things with westerns is the idea of like the West dying, right? The fact that the world is becoming a bit more civilized. And I think this kind of captures that energy a little bit. Don't really want to spoil the twist to it, but the main character was a bit of a gunslinger back in the day, and he kind of knows like the risks of the lifestyle, and he just prefers the sort of simplistic thing that he's doing now, like the farming and whatnot. And he's trying to keep his son confined to that lifestyle, but obviously being young and a man in that time, he has these sort of dreams about, adventure, I guess. Just wanting to do something more than just what he's doing, which I guess is also sort of like a modern theme of sorts, but still very prevalent to that time, I feel like. And then, of course, Old Henry just like tries to keep him away from that, but they're confronted with the situation where that life kind of comes to them, right? So it ends up about dealing with that. And I mean, the conversation stuff is just like interesting. I mean, again, simple, right? It's just two people talking, trying to figure out like the full story from one another. And I mean, both of them kind of being knowledgeable about this life. They can sort of see that the other person is lying, but they sort of want to give the benefit of the doubt to preserve themselves in some ways. Or at least Henry is, you know what I mean? I feel like Henry kind of knows something's up with the guy, and he maybe knows that he's not telling the whole truth, but he wants to believe him essentially just to move the situation on so he can go back to living his simple life. And of course, to keep his son out of danger. Yeah, so I liked all that. And then of course, it just like becomes very like action packed towards the end. So I mean, after all of the sort of like conversating and slow burn, you're rewarded with like honestly a very satisfying action sequence. I quite like it a lot. Gritty in a pretty realistic way, and of course the twist to it is interesting as well. Sort of, like now that I've like watched the movie, obviously, the twist to it is like a little bit obvious, but still really interesting. Honestly, it's just kind of like a whoa, okay, they're doing that, all right. And then even then the actual ending, of course, with the son and the kind of resolution to this specific story, and of course Henry's story. There's I was talking about that Western theme, about the West ending, And I mean, this kind of captures that in a very small way. You know, and it's funny too because honestly, one of the best westerns is Logan, oddly enough, but Logan kind of has that idea as well. The, you know, like the legends dying out, right? And whoever's young has to sort of like keep it going, or at least you know that's kind of my takeaway from that, and a lot of Western stuff typically. I mean, in Logan they talk about the movie. What is it? Shane, right? There's no more guns in the valley, sort of thing, right? And I mean that's kind of what happens at the end of Old Henry. You know what I mean? There is this pretty like massive, but still like small scale battle, or rather like the stakes are high to one of the characters, right? But it is just like a group of people fighting for something that you know ultimately probably doesn't really matter. And yeah, it is just violence for violence sake. And you know, once all the violence is done, there's only one person left. And I mean, the message usually is to break the chain of violence, right? And in reality, I think that's what Henry was trying to tell his son for the most part. You know what I mean? Like this life only ends a certain way. You know, so like actually go out and live your life and do something with it, something that you know is meaningful to you, and don't try to be some legend or some hero or anything like that. But yeah, honestly, great movie. Very simple movie, and I enjoyed it. Probably won't ever watch it again, but enjoyed it for what it was. It has a, you know, I was watching it with some family members, but I was watching it with my stepdad, and he pointed out that the main dude, it's the guy from Buster Scruggs himself, but he's also in some like other stuff. He's like in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, I believe. But he has that kind of look, this really like rugged, old timey look. So it makes sense that he's in movies like these. You know what I mean? He just has like a really rough like Westerner look. Like he could fit into Red Dead or something like that. But yeah, so that's Old Henry. Pretty recent actually, 2021. So that's like ending pandemic era, right? So I guess that kind of explains why the movie's a bit small scale. But I mean, no, still good regardless. Watched Little Miss Sunshine. Finally, this one has kind of been on like a list of sorts, like in my mind, but worth it, very, very worth it. Very good movie. I enjoyed it immensely. Very sort of like touches your heart kind of thing. You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about it a while back, and maybe at some point I'll read what I wrote regarding this idea. But some of my favorite movies are the ones that are based in a type of reality. Like obviously you watch movies to escape reality, but movies that are based in a kind of reality, and there's a sort of conclusion to a struggling person's story, it feels immensely satisfying because it feels so real. And this one kind of sits in that same vein. It's a little more exaggerated. Like I feel like the characters, like actual characters, you know what I mean? Like they have their own little quirks and whatnot. But they're still very realistic. Like you could imagine people like this, right? Like semi-eccentric, but still just normal people who are sad in some ways, and trying to sort of fight for what they want. I guess admirable is the only word I can sort of come up with for these type of people. You know, people who are consistently trying, and even when they did want to give up, you know, unfortunately, even though they did want to give up, they kind of keep it moving in certain ways, very drastic ways, obviously, because there's parts in this movies that are like a little bit sort of like out there, hyper real, I guess, but still very like based in reality. Very funny movie, of course. Very sad movie in moments. Again, this is another movie with like Steve Carell in it. And I guess real quick, talking about performances, I feel like everybody's good in this movie. I mean, like the dad character, don't really know if I've like seen him in anything, but obviously Toni Collette as the mom, fantastic actress. Paul Dano, great. The girl from Zombieland, not Emma Stone, but the sister in that. She's in this as like a younger actress, but she's very good in it too. Very realistic, again, as like a young, like girl sort of, you know, just existing really. And yeah, Steve Carell surprised me as well. Even the grandpa was good too, but Steve Carell surprised me. I mean, I said it what was it, last month or the month before, but not the biggest Steve Carell fan. Honestly, not the biggest Steve Carell fan. But if you can give him a character, I think he can be properly good, and he's not just like freestyling or like ad-libbing or whatever. I think there's maybe one moment where he might have been, but it doesn't feel out of character for him. I mean, like his character, he's like a really depressed guy who like almost killed himself, so failed suicide attempt, and now he's like living with a family, or his family or his sister's family rather. And all of them are kind of like strange characters in their own way. Paul Dano's character is just like really into Nietzsche, and so he's reading that, and he takes this vow of silence as a sort of like disciplinary act, or self-disciplinary act, because he wants to be a pilot. You know what I mean? But he has his own like little quirk, right? And then same with the sister. She's a young girl, but she really wants to be in the Miss America pageant. Like she wants to be like a pageant girl. But just like with her, she's like a little sort of like out there. She's obviously not like the standard for beauty necessarily, but I mean, I feel like that's sort of like a theme by the end of it. You know what I mean? Like not conforming to the ideas of the world, and not trying to be something you're really not, and just ultimately by the end of it being yourself in some small ways. And I mean, cliche as it sounds, it is a movie about family, and the sort of strength and security that can come with family, even if you don't always agree with them. I feel like there's something, what's his name, the producer, he had that album come out called Louis. If I remember it, I'll come back to it. But he has a really profound thing he says at his Tiny Desk concert, where like that album specifically is about family, and like love them or hate them sort of thing. Like they're the people that are with you, right? And I feel like this movie kind of captures that energy really, really well. I mean, like even in some of their lowest moments, there's always like one member of the family that's like trying really, really hard to be there for them, even when they don't know what to do. They're always trying for each other, which is nice, obviously. I feel like there's some more like dramatic moments in the movies that I'm not gonna really spoil, but some more dramatic moments that were intensely satisfying to finally see, because this is one of those movies that kind of gets like clipped from time to time. So like I'd seen clips from the movie, and I was like, man, that's just like a really good moment. But then there are some other like really, really good moments that I adored as well. I mean, again, with like Paul Dano's character, he's kind of this like archetype of like the I'm 15 and this is deep sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like him reading Nietzsche, him doing a vow of silence, and him still being that edgy kind of teenager or young adult who's like, oh, like I hate everything. I hate my family. This, that, and the other. But at his core, he obviously very, very much loves his family. And I mean, even with Steve Carell, right, and his character, like, failed suicide attempt, already at a complete low, but his sister takes him in, and he kind of, like, becomes accustomed to this, like, new group that he's a part of. And it's very obvious that he cares for, well, one, his nephew, but then obviously everybody else, right? He's always just sort of interacting in small ways with everybody. His sister, of course, having these small moments where he's joking with the sister, which was honestly one of my favorite moments in the movie. There's a kind of moment where Steve Carell is like talking to the dad, and they're having this conversation about like winners and losers, because that's another theme in the movie, this idea of like being a winner over being a loser. But I mean, being a loser isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the thing about losers is that they try, right? Which is something I think the grandpa says to the daughter. You know what I mean? Like, being a winner is nice and all, but like as long as you're out there trying, I mean, you can't really call yourself a loser, right? So Steve Carell and the dad are kind of having a conversation about that, and because the dad is like trying to sell off his like improvement course, basically. So it's like, oh yeah, 9 steps to like self-improve sort of thing. So he's one of these like hyper optimistic sort of people. Despite struggling, he's really trying to stay positive in some type of way, but obviously it all just like weighs on him. But anyways, he's having this conversation with Steve Carell's character, and Steve Carell's being very sarcastic, of course, about the 9-step program, because I mean, like, everybody kind of thinks it's like stupid in some ways, but I mean, this is the dad's dream, and the dad really wants to make it a reality. Um, but yeah, so Steve Carell is being very sarcastic about the situation, and like he's almost like doing it for like Tony Collette's amusement, because even Tony Collette kind of thinks like the whole idea is stupid, and like they're burning a lot of their own resources just to make this happen for him. Um, and so she's sort of like looking back at him and like laughing because like Steve Carell is being naturally funny in a very sarcastic way. Um, and then they kind of catch on and it becomes a little bit of a screaming match. But there's moments like these where it is just like the characters interacting like in a very pure way, and they don't feel like actors interacting. They feel like actual just people like conversating and arguing. Uh, just like a family, right? Like how a family can have fun and joke around and sometimes get into like small tiffs. Um, yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of just small moments that I think are really funny. I mean, another one, just a quick one, but man, I think it might be one of my favorite like little segments of the whole movie. But like it's sort of like a nice moment. Like they stop at a gas station and everybody's kind of getting out to like do their own thing. Obviously, it's like a road trip sort of movie as well. So they're getting out to like stretch and stuff like that, and it seems happy. You know what I mean? Everybody's sort of like like we're making this journey, and like there's a setback, but we're like on the road again. Let's just go out and do something. And Steve Carell is getting out, and the grandpa is like like stopping him, and he's like sort of having a jab at him because Steve Carell's character is gay. But like Steve Carell is just kind of like taking it on the chin. He's like, oh yeah, just sort of like laughing along and like asking like, hey, like do you want anything? I'm gonna go in, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? So it's a very nice moment, very light moment, and everybody's sort of like happy that they're able to like take a quick rest. And then yeah, everything quickly sort of devolves, and everything bad that can happen will happen. Murphy's law sort of thing, right? And everything bad that could happen happens to just about everybody in that in that corner store, gas station. And it's funny because everybody, despite leaving the car somewhat happy, they all come back very upset. It's funny whenever like Steve Carell finally gets back to the grandpa, because the grandpa just asked him to like at least get him a magazine. So whenever Steve Carell comes back outside with the magazine, he just like tosses it like in his face. The grandpa doesn't think like any way about it either, which is like sort of the funny part. He just sort of understands. He's like, like just something happened to him. Not gonna take it personal or anything. But yeah, and everybody just leaves in absolute silence, and the music is wonderful in this movie too. I guess quick shout out thing about the music. Music is very good. I'm pretty sure everybody knows the track. The Winner Is a very famous track from this movie, but the band is called Devochka, and Michael Donna, I guess, is another person who also worked on it for them. But this moment that I'm talking about when they're leaving the gas station in silence, I think it's the moment where the track Let's Go plays. And I think that's my favorite track on the album. Very wonderful track. And I mean, like, it tells its own little story. Like, it starts off incredibly somber, of course, is where we're at with these characters. Them leaving is a super low point. But it becomes slightly more energetic because one of the funny, like, smaller bits is, like, they're just in silence, and like it almost seems like a small argument's about to erupt, but like Paul Dano's character is like looking around, like because I mean the focus is on like all the characters just like sitting in the car just disappointed in some way or another, either with themselves or with whatever they got going on. But Paul Dano is like kind of looking around like very very cartoonishly. He literally is doing like a like looking like everywhere, like in this small van, because the sister's missing, and then they go back and get the sister. But that's obviously where the track sort of like picks up as well. Again, like very somber, but then like builds up and is like very very lively. I guess is a decent word for it. But yeah, great moment. Probably one of my favorite moments in the whole movie, and honestly, just a really great movie in and of itself. But yeah, so that's Little Miss Sunshine, 2006. Ballerina. I mean, shit, pretty simple, right? Straightforward. Just a good action movie. I ain't even gonna lie. This whole like John Wick world. I mean, it is just sort of interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend that I really know the like the depths of the lore or whatever. But it still is a really interesting world, and I mean, like at least like on a surface level, like it's just a world where like assassins exist, and they all just try to kill each other or kill other people, and I mean, shit, you get some good action out of it. Uh, who can turn their nose up at some good action? And I mean, like some of the action sequences in this are actually really, really good. Um, it's funny. I think I'd seen the clip already as well before I even watched the movie. But one of the early action sequences, whenever Ana de Armas's character is trying to leave from like one of her like missions or whatever, and you know the car's kind of driving off, and like they're doing this like pan out like wide shot, and right when she's about to like go to the intersection, she gets hit by a car and is pulled all the way back into frame. Very cool shot. Obviously, since they spoiled it in the trailers and shit like that, or like in the advertising, John Wick shows up. Really wish they would have kept that a secret. I feel like that would have been such a cool reveal, honestly, and also like a bit of a reward for people to go out and watch the movie, or you know, a reward for the people who went out and watched the movie. But I mean, like I understand it from like a realistic point of view, right? It's like, oh, it's an action movie with the woman, and those don't do well, but. I mean, I don't know. Kind of sad that we gotta, you know, bank this woman's story on the back of a man. But that's social and politics stuff. Neither here nor there. But anyways, I mean, still good, right? I mean, you still get really good action. You still get well, I was gonna say some other stuff, but no, I mean, just really, really good action. Obviously, like that whole segment towards the end, like it basically like does become a kind of nonstop after a while. But with her sort of like going to the village and just like being there, and it, you know, and it just like kicks off like every single moment. There's like something happening, something new, and you know something that they're doing. You know, I feel like especially in the John Wick movies, like there's always like sort of like these like set pieces. Like obviously there's like grand like set pieces going on, but even within those, there's these like smaller moments. Obviously like the whole village is like its own thing. But one of my favorite moments in that is sort of like the like initial action, like she's like fighting the sort of like guy, and like after she kills him, like there's like a whole like group of like villagers that come in, but one of the people she's fighting is the I don't know what you would call them, like the innkeeper basically, but she isn't fully clued into the fact that everybody is like sort of in on it. So whenever the innkeeper starts attacking her, she's kind of caught off guard, but she's having this fight with her, and they start just like throwing the plates at each other, and then they're looking for the gun like inside all the plates. But while they're doing that, they're like grabbing a plate and like hitting each other with it. But again, just like these small moments that are sort of like fun and like completely ridiculous, but but I guess almost like realistic to an extent. I feel like with certain action movies, it's always like, oh, like why aren't they going for the gun? Like go for the gun, or like oh, like why aren't they doing like XYZ to like maybe like stop them from getting, you know, XYZ sort of thing. So it's funny whenever they do these small, like very human sort of things, you know, despite being like these like trained assassins. You know what I mean? It's almost a very like sort of a simple person thing to like, oh, like I'm looking for this weapon. I don't have a weapon and this person's trying to kill me. I'm just going to hit them with whatever I have in front of me. You know, so a little humorous in that way. But I mean, again, like I don't think there's much to really talk about. The action is just like sort of the key thing, and the action is incredibly enjoyable. I feel like this is one of those movies that I'd probably watch again because, I mean, action as a genre for me, I enjoy them. Yeah, I enjoy the odd action movie, but it usually is like a one-time experience a lot of the time, unless of course I haven't like seen it in a long time and it's like, okay, I can go back to it. Or if there's something a bit more going on. Like I think one of my favorite like purely action type movies is probably The Matrix, but that's because there's this whole like other story going on that's sort of interesting to pick apart. And I mean, like with like the John Wick movies and even Ballerina, it is just very like straightforward action. Like you have your central character who's made very easy to sort of care for, which is good. You know what I mean? Like you want to be able to care for your main character. But I mean, that's kind of all it needs to be, right? Just have a good central character and have some good action, you know. But yeah, still a great movie. Another thing too, though, I feel like Ana de Armas' character, she has like a weird obsession with grenades. She's like always fucking blowing shit up, which is kind of funny. But I guess that's just like a quirk with her character. But yeah, still good. Next movie, Shaolin Soccer. Stephen Chow, I believe, is the director's name, but it's also like Kung Fu Hustle, and I feel like those are the two like big ones that like made it here to America. But obviously, of course, he's like directed tons of stuff and made tons of stuff. But yeah, very apparent with him that he has a passion for martial arts. And yeah, this one kind of like shines it through. Like the character that he plays is somebody who's really interested in martial arts, but is kind of like a bum, and just like living day to day. Whoa, 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 whoa! Holy shit! A fucking wasp landed on me. It's scary. Holy fuck! I think I need to like abandon this place, but let's see what he's doing. If he comes back again, I'll like scream and leave. Holy shit, that was wild. Anyways, but Shaolin Soccer, Stephen Chow. Yeah, again, like I feel like his character is very simple, and everything that sort of happens in the movie is quite simple, but also just like intensely funny, eager, I guess, pure in some type of way. I mean, obviously like one of the big things is like all of these people are sort of like losers in small ways. So I mean, I guess like kind of like a little Miss Sunshine thing, but that's not what defines you, right? It's sort of like what you do and like the kind of people you surround yourself with, your family, your maid family even, because like it is about Stephen Chow, and he's kind of down, but he almost doesn't really care. Like it isn't as important to him, but I think it's only made important once he realizes how down everybody else around him is. You know what I mean? Like he falls in love with the girl who makes the sweet buns, and she's also really interested in kung fu, but she has very low confidence in herself. And Stephen Chow's character kind of sees that and like does a lot to sort of like uplift her and just be a friend to her, really. But then obviously whenever he thinks on all of his brothers from Shaolin as well, and all of them are kind of down on their luck, all of them living lives that they don't really like, and like Stephen Chow kind of reminds them of their love of kung fu, just because like since he loves kung fu so much, that sort of love for it is able to go on to everybody else, and they sort of make this new team with each other, and they play soccer, and and I mean like the funny thing is I feel like with a lot of foreign movies, like a lot of foreign movies and a lot of foreign filmmakers, they aren't scared just to make really fun movies, like really stupid, really like over the top, but movies, right? Like actual movies, like not based in any sort of reality. They can be very goofy, but they have a very strong heart to them. I guess that's what I meant when I said eager earlier. They're very eager, or earnest rather. There you go. Very earnest movies. Yeah, and this one's no different. I feel like whenever I'm watching this, and even when I watched like Kung Fu Hustle for the first time, I thought of the movie RRR. What is it? Rise, Revolt, Run, right? But yeah, that movie RRR, very good as well. Foreign, completely like dramatic and over the top in its action and in its comedy, but just like a movie and intensely enjoyable every single second. And this movie was the exact same. There's like moments of just like pure like hyperbole in the action. Just like characters being like really dramatic in a comedic and humorous sense. Like there's a really funny segment where he basically has like a kind of like a Saving Private Ryan D-Day thing going on like in his mind. He's like dodging like in reality like it would just be like soccer balls and stuff like that, but he's imagining himself like just like in a war zone, like crawling around to cover. It's a very funny moment, but you know what I mean, just like small moments where it's like, yeah, this is a movie and we're having fun with it, sort of thing, right? But yeah, again, like not much else I can say about this movie other than intensely enjoyable, funny, and in a very like not laughing at the movie but laughing with the movie, like sort of acknowledging like, okay, this is a movie, it's meant to be fun and it's being fun, and also with a little bit of heart, you know, and that's always good too. Obviously, with this sort of like brother relationship he has with his Shaolin brothers, but then also the relationship that he eventually builds with the girl, him being attracted to her for her, not for her beauty or anything like that, but just for her being herself, making these sweet buns and being a fellow fan of kung fu as well. So But yeah, so that's Shaolin Soccer. I also watched the Odyssey. Sort of watched the Odyssey. I took a nap in between it because I was drinking with one of my friends, and the other friend kind of turned his nose up at us, rightfully so. Honestly, this is like the second time I've done it to him, but neither here nor there. But I still watched a good chunk of it. I think the only parts I missed, I probably missed like 30 minutes or so, maybe, probably more, honestly, maybe like 40 minutes or so. But I mean, still, like I was in it for like a large part of it, and I was awake past the Cyclops bit. And I think there's another segment after that I was like completely there for, and then yeah, that's when I took the nap. But then I woke up in the last sort of 30, 40 minutes for Odysseus's return, basically. And I mean, like yeah, it's just a story of the Odyssey by Christopher Nolan. It has it's very grand, I'll say that. And I mean, like compared to his other stuff, because I'm like, if I'm being completely honest, I'm not really too big into Nolan. The only thing I especially like from him is The Dark Knight and maybe Batman Begins. But again, that's because there's like a character in place already, and he's just sort of interpreting the character. I feel like when he's given a story to kind of interpret, basically, so like with this and the Odyssey, his vision for things is obviously very appealing, just on a sort of like spectacle level. And I mean, like the story, I mean, you can't really fuck up the Odyssey necessarily, right? So like all of these things are kind of set in stone for him. So I mean, the only reason why you would watch this is if you're a fan of Nolan, and you're a fan of his like vision. And I mean, like his vision is quite admirable. What, this is like the only movie, or like one of the only movies like filmed entirely in IMAX. And I mean, it came across in the theater, no doubt. So I was in it for that again. But it, like, I think for me it was just pure spectacle, and I feel like that's how a lot of his movies end up being. Like I don't remember much else about them except for the spectacle aspects of it, which is why I think, Batman Begins and Dark Knight, Dark Knight, are so vivid in my mind, because they have like actual characters. Yeah, because his other movies, like I couldn't tell you what the fuck is actually even happening, and I especially can't tell you about the characters. I don't know what is even happening there, like on a character level. I don't really relate to any of them, which is usually a bad thing. But the only thing that kind of keeps me watching them are just the spectacle of it all. I'm speaking mainly on Inception and whoa, giant flies. Yeah, mainly Inception and Tenet. I feel like are the only two that I've actually like sat through the whole thing. I was gonna say, I've actually like sat through the whole thing for. And I mean, like, nothing wrong with those movies. Like, enjoyable, but I mean, like I don't imagine myself ever revisiting them. I'll probably have to revisit this again just because I fucked up and fell asleep. But I feel like I'd only be watching it like on a pure spectacle level. I mean, if I really wanted to like pick apart the Odyssey, I feel like I would just read, you know, uh, the Odyssey, or the Iliad. I feel like that'd be like a bit more like useful, bit of time, a bit more of like an involved experience, right? Yeah, because obviously, like I remember reading it in like high school or whatever, and then watching "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou." Honestly, probably just rewatch "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," if anything. But yeah, definitely probably rewatch this movie at some point. But yeah, like that was it. Literally only watched like 5 movies this month. Obviously, I rewatched like a lot of things, a lot of kids' movies mainly, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're movies that I've already talked about before, except for The Incredibles. Did rewatch The Incredibles? Fucking fantastic movie. Love The Incredibles. But anyways, music. Also, not a lot to the music. Maybe only listen to like 3 albums properly. So starting off with Jubilee, the album by Japanese Breakfast. Very pop focused album, and honestly just fun. Very fun album. I've been familiar with Japanese Breakfast for a long while. I think the first thing I heard from them was the song Roadhead. I forget the name of the album. What is it, like Sounds from Outer Space or something like that? I'm probably thinking about something completely different. No, but yeah, so familiar with Japanese Breakfast, and then yeah, so just some of my favorites: Roadhead, essentially, these are for different albums, not from Jubilee, or different projects. But yeah, Roadhead, essentially. What is it? Everybody Wants to Love You. But I think those are like some of like their major hits. But very enjoyable songs. Always very upbeat, very fun. Just pop songs, right? But they have a very interesting sound, very like atmospheric at times. And of course, the lead vocalist has an amazing voice. But with this album, Jubilee, Be Sweet was one of my favorite tracks. But I think it's one of the more popular tracks on the album. Really like Paprika as the opener. And I feel like, and I'm pretty sure I've said it before, but you want the opener of the album to really introduce you, well, one, to the themes of the album, but then two, to the actual sound of it. And I feel like Paprika does a really good job of that. And I mean, like Japanese Breakfast, they have a pretty consistent sound, very good sound, obviously. Well, to me at least. But their sound is very consistent. These like very expressive vocals and instrumentation that at times like poppy, yeah, but they introduce like these smaller elements. It can be very different and alternative in ways, but still like a very pop sound, like, some electronica and some like jazz sort of like orientations thrown in. Like one of my favorite tracks is Sly Tackle, and this probably is my favorite track on the album, Sly Tackle. But again, just like really good vocals, these like spacious electronic instrumentation, but then also there's just like a saxophone solo like in between, and it's fucking great. It's sort of used as like the break between the hooks, I guess, or between the choruses. But yeah, very good. I love that track a lot. And then another track to shout out is Posing in Bondage, which reminded me of the song Starting Over by LSD and the Search for God, which is another sort of band, I guess, or group, but again, very like ethereal pop sort of thing, these like atmospheric instrumentations with voices that are, well, I guess ethereal, right? They sort of just like surround you in a comforting way, but sort of like in a like out of your own mind kind of way. But yeah, so I guess that's sort of the experience that Japanese Breakfast brought here with Jubilee. Still incredibly pop focused, but having these moments of just like different instrumentation. So again, just very fun album, and it was one that I was listening to pretty intensely this month. Another one too, and this is sort of like a weird pick, but well, I mean, not too weird a pick, but something I just kind of came across. But an album called 7G by the artist A.G. Cook, purely instrumental for the most part, but it's like a 2 hour long. Again, like on my notes, just 2 hour long, varied instrumental. Yeah, very instrumental, but there are some tracks with there's some like vocalizations, and it's sort of like what I said before, where like if you have an instrumental track and you want to add vocals, but it's more so just like harmonizing with the instrumentals, or the lyrics being like a little like nonsensical in some ways. And yeah, that's kind of what this is. Very like male dominated vocalist, sort of like a weird like Midwest emo kind of vibe to him. But yeah, but like the different sort of like styles or like genres, like obviously very like electronic for some of them. Whenever there are like these like like vocals like on a track, the instrumentation is like sort of like rock influenced, just like more guitar focused, like that shines through. There are still some like electronic elements to it, but it is like focused mainly on the guitar. Yeah, you have like some like drum and bass type tracks, some like trance instrumentations, borderline like dubstep, like experimental, like industrial sort of stuff. Very, very diverse album. Yeah, like some of my favorites. I mean, A to Z, which I believe is one of the earlier tracks, Acid Angel, H2O, and these are ones that are just like purely instrumental, electronic, but different in their forms of electronic. I believe it's A to Z, that's drum and bass focused, and then Acid Angel, it's like super heavy, and so is H2O in the same way. But they have like these small moments where it becomes a bit more like melodic and trance-like, and then they go back to the heavier sort of industrial stuff, which is interesting. But some of my favorite tracks that I want to shout out are the New Crush, Gemstone Break, Gold Leaf, all of those like instrumental, sort of on the softer side, which I think is why I like them, a bit more melodic. But then sort of like the ones I was talking about earlier with the vocals and the kind of a guitar focus on them are Drink Blood and Superstar, parentheses, Live at Secret Sky. But both of those tracks really, really cool. And I mean, again, like the lyrics are like kind of nonsensical, but they're nice. And the instrumentation accompanies like the lyrics in a sort of nice way. So they feel very complete, you know, despite not actually saying anything, you know, profound or anything like that, but very good listens. So yeah, again, that's 7G by A.G. Cook. 2 hours long. I mean, pretty daunting for like an album, especially, but enjoyable. Though I will say, I think I enjoyed the first half as opposed to the second half. I feel like, I mean, again, with it being 2 hours, it does get pretty, I don't know, like self-indulgent, right? It just kind of keeps going, and it's like, whatever. But there's a lot of diversity in the first half that I really appreciate, which is why I think the first half is a bit more vivid in my mind. Next album, This Old Dog by Mac DeMarco. Again, very familiar with Mac DeMarco, but you know, since I wasn't really going out of my way to listen to albums this month, I was just listening to my constant playlist, and you know, whenever like a Mac DeMarco song would come on, I'd get really attached because, I mean, again, like Mac DeMarco is a pretty popular artist, but I don't really keep up with him. Like a lot of people, I think the only track I was really familiar with was Chamber of Reflection from, is the album called Salad Days, right? But even that album, I think, has better tracks. I can't think of them right now. Go Easy, is that on the same album? But that song, I love way more than Chamber of Reflection, but I mean, you don't really hear people talk about it. But neither here nor there. Anyways, but you know, with Mac DeMarco, This Old Dog, I think in my mind, this is probably my favorite album from him. Very personal album, I feel like, in a lot of ways. It's very apparent that he's talking about his family. Well, maybe family was a reoccurring theme this month. You know, especially his father. I mean, This Old Dog and what's the other track? Mild Man. Yeah. But, you know, it's very apparent he's talking about his father, sort of like being someone that he doesn't completely recognize because he's no longer himself and is becoming more like this father who he, well, I guess from the album, like, didn't really know in some ways. And I guess that sort of like shines through by the end of it, like watching him fade away. You know, this memory of somebody he never knew sort of disappear, or even then just the person themselves kind of disappearing from his life by either dying or just not being a part of it in some way. So, I mean, I guess not being a part of it in multiple ways. So I guess kind of profound on that level. But yeah, I think this is my favorite one just because it's consistently very slow. There are some like little upbeat moments here and there, but this is a very somber, melancholy album that really captures a kind of like weird nostalgia, I guess, right? The sort of sadness that can come from looking into the past, or even just a sadness that can come from thinking about your future, right? Your own kind of mortality. Because I mean, again, that's sort of what Mild Man is about. You know, like look in the mirror, who do you see? Someone familiar, but surely not me. You know, looks like I'm seeing more of Mild Man in me. You know, but yeah, just like this idea about growing older and a kind of sadness about that, and sort of like realizing that, you know, maybe you're gonna die. Maybe I'm projecting now, but you know, or not maybe you're gonna die. You're definitely gonna die, but you're sort of shaping out to be something different as you grow older. But give me a second. But yeah, and then obviously the title track, This Old Dog, love that track. My favorite line in it obviously is, well, I mean, there's probably a lot of good lines, but obviously you know, sometimes my heart may seem awful cold, which is just a good line on its own. These times come, these times go. Very simple. And then the other one I like on this track is, you know, sometimes a heart lives to change its mind. A new day decides on a new design. Again, these like very simple lyrics, but I think they express a type of sadness with things changing And I mean, like all change isn't necessarily bad, but I feel like there's a genuine fear of change that a lot of people have. And I mean, I kind of have it, no doubt, which is probably why this album resonates a bit with me. But yeah, just a lot of these like very simple, instrumentally, like sort of haunting, again, in minor ways, melancholy, I think is the word I used earlier, but I think it's the perfect word to describe it. But there is a sort of peace that we can kind of come to by the end of this album, I think, or I did at least. I don't know, because like there's some happier moments, I think, towards the end of the album. I say happier. I feel like they're still drenched a little bit in a type of sadness, but it's like a therapeutic sadness, right? You know what I mean? Like sometimes whenever you get like the sort of like sad emotions out, you can sort of be like a little happy, a little bit refreshed after the fact. Yeah, but I mean, this time around, the song "Sister" really hit me, man. I love that song. Again, like simple, haunting, with the instrumentation, especially whenever it leads in, but then the lyrics are so punching. It kind of reminds me of that song. I mean, again, because like this being a sort of like appreciation for a sister now, but the song "Back on You" by Joe, what's his name? Joe Carey, Steve from Stranger Things. But he has a song kind of like this as well. Again, it's called "Back on You," but it's about him talking about his love for his sister or sisters, I believe. And this one's very much the same. I mean, again, like like the track is like a minute long, but like he packs so much into it, and it's so heartfelt. But yeah, but that's This Old Dog, Mac DeMarco. Just like quick shout out, sincerest apologies, but my eyes they cannot beg, which is an album from a group called I Talk About You All the Time. This is one of those instrumental albums, like mainly guitar stuff, but like I've said it before, like sometimes I'll just like put this stuff on in the background while I'm, I don't know, just like usually like early morning, I'm just like listening to stuff. But this is one that kind of caught my ear, so I'll just listen to it sometimes. But yeah, so if you're interested in just like guitar instrumentations, give this one a check. I know the title of the album and the name of the band is long, but again, sincerest apologies, but my eyes they cannot beg is the name of the album, and the group is called I Talk About You All the Time. Yeah, just simple guitar stuff. And then quick shout out to Bjork. Found the track Carvel. Very fun track. Has like these like electronic dance elements, light drum and bass sort of elements maybe as well. But super upbeat track. What is it? Whenever I researched it, I think they said this kind of came out like around the time Post came out, which I guess kind of makes sense. Post is a very like dancey kind of album. Yeah, and this is a very like dancey, very energetic track as well. But yeah, again, like I'm only at like 48 minutes. Super light month, honestly, but I still feel like I got a lot out of it, oddly enough. With these I usually like break like an hour, but it's fine being a little bit shorter this time around. I feel like the Wasp traveling over here kind of bought like 2 minutes, but whatever. Anyways, but yeah, that's it. Again, this month didn't really watch a lot, but or do a lot necessarily, but I think I'm kind of realizing now there's nothing especially bad about that. I feel like I need to get better about sitting still, if that makes sense, not like over consuming. And obviously one of the things that has helped me is reading. Or I guess real quick, let me just talk about the book that I read this month. I mean, it took me a while, honestly, just because it's a bit of a complicated one. But I was reading David Foster Wallace, The Broom of the System. And I was thinking about doing like my own video with it, like how I'd done little videos for the other books I've read so far, but I'm not really sure how to talk about this book, and I don't really want to make a video talking about David Foster Wallace stuff necessarily, because it's just going to be me umming and erring, kind of like what I do now, basically. But I'll talk about it here at the end, just because like my thoughts on it are pretty quick. Really interesting. Obviously, no doubt, I didn't understand it all. On a pure story level, pretty straightforward, but there's complexities and nuances to the ideas that are being expressed, mainly the ideas about relationships ideas about I guess like the power of words and like their functionality, I guess, or so I guess like almost like the theory of words. And then when I say relationships, more so your dynamic within a relationship, the way you view yourself in relation to other people's, the way you view yourself within a system of people. There's like lots of really great moments where these ideas are sort of like exemplified. I mean, with like a lot of the characters, especially the male characters, I feel like a lot of them are trying to find their belonging. Obviously, with Rick's character, him and his obsession towards Lenore, the main character Lenore, not Grandma Lenore, but with Rick's sort of obsession with her and him trying to be a sort of like functional person for her, or I guess like in service of her. And then Lang or Andy kind of has an idea about that as well towards the end. I mean, he's like sharing this tender moment with Lenore. And Lenore sort of mentions that he's like dropped his like Texan like sort of accent, and he's like, well, yeah, like that's just not really me, and like right now we're sort of having like a vulnerable moment, so it's just like that part of me, I guess, just really wasn't that important that I can now show my like more honest self. And she sort of asks like why he like even did it to begin with, and he says like, well, yeah, like in college, like you got to have a thing, like everybody has a thing, a function, right? And you sort of got to fit into that. Which is also an idea that's really expressed through Lenore's brother. I mean, again, like with me talking about like, the sort of like theoretics of words and stuff like that, that comes across in like a lot of the naming conventions. Like I guess with words having meaning and words having function, names especially serve a function because one, they let you know who the person is, but they also describe what their function is, right? Or I guess like sort of who they are to you, because a lot of characters in this have like sort of nicknames or like names that are referred to by other characters. I guess quick example for me, I mean, like obviously my name is Jay Lee. So people who don't really know me call me Jay Lee. Or coworkers and whatnot. But I feel like people who are a bit more comfortable with me will just call me Jay. Like my friends call me Jay, but some of my friends still just call me Jay Lee, and I kind of like that as well. But then obviously one of my brothers just calls me Miracle because that's my middle name and that's what he refers me to. But I guess what I'm kind of getting at is that happens exactly in the book. People refer to people by the way that they understand them within their relationship to that person, right? I feel like if my brother was talking to me or talking to someone about me and he said, oh yeah, Miracle did this the other day, and they'd be like, oh, who's Miracle? And be like, oh, well, that's Jay Lee, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what I mean? But the way you function in somebody else's life is like how they reference you, and the way they reference you is usually a name, so the name serves the function. And I guess that idea about the sort of functionality of words comes across. The father of Lenore is, oh well, actually I need to get back to the brother, but real quick because this is like sort of ties into everything. But there's a moment where, because Lenore is really sort of attached in some ways to the grandmother who's also named Lenore, but the father is talking about how whenever he was younger, grandmother Lenore would basically give him like a thought exercise and would show him a broom and say like which part of the broom is more important to the broom. Is it the handle or is it the sort of like bristle part? And it's sort of like a lose-lose scenario, or at least that's how the father saw it, because like it didn't matter what he would answer, the sort of answer is like too complex to really even answer to begin with. And whatever he answered, the grandmother would sort of give him the alternative version. I mean, because to the grandmother, the answer was, like none are not really more important than the other. Both of them serve the function. And I guess the importance to the broom really is what you've assigned its purpose to. Like the handle is important. Like in the book, the example is like the handle is more important if you wanted to like smash a window out. You know what I mean? Like if you really wanted to hurt somebody, you would use the handle. But if you needed to, like, say, sweep up a mess from the broken window, you would use the bristles. So in that case, one has become more important to the other, but only because of the function that you've assigned it to. And the only reason why we call it a broom is because the broom is a sort of like all-encompassing term for what the thing functions as. So I guess that's what I meant with, like, the sort of theoretics of words. But again, like, really interesting. And I don't know if I'm, like, grabbing it in the specific or, like, kind of particular way that David Foster Wallace wanted me to grasp it, but it's how I thought of it. And I guess as long as I'm thinking about it, because that is sort of a really interesting thing. And there's another part about that too with grandmother Lenore and the way she uses words for their functions. There's a bit where people are talking about her and how, like, she wouldn't use the words like door or anything like that. Like, she would just, like, say out their function, so when describing a door, she would say how the hole in the wall that brings you to the next room, sort of thing. You know what I mean? Describing their function aside from what the word that we have assigned it as. So again, like, interesting in that regard. But I guess, again, going back to, like, having a thing or having a function within a sort of, like, environment or, within your relationship to people, that's how the brother feels. Lavanche or Lavache, because he's named after the father, but he kind of resents his dad, so he doesn't like to go by that name. So instead, he goes by the name that was given to him at the school, because at the school, like, he has a thing. At the school, he's called the Antichrist, just because he sort of has, like, a very devilish look. But then he also has this quirk with his leg, like he's, like, missing his leg, so he has this sort of, like, peg leg thing, and he, like, stuffs things, like, into the leg, and he talks to the leg. But again, like, the sister asks him about it, like why does he sort of, like, confine himself to this? And it's, just because, like he wants to have a thing, and he wants to kind of be a part of something, and him being assigned this sort of gives him, like, a purpose and a meaning. And another interesting thing as well, real quick, sort of an aside that I was thinking about, but whenever he's introduced as the Antichrist, and, his, like, appearance is being described, he's also described as being sat around by three, I guess, like, brothers, essentially. So three people who look very, very similar. And I was thinking, okay, so you have a devilish character, and then, like, his, like, three kind of lackeys beside him. So I was thinking about, Hades and the Cerberus. And intentional or not, that's definitely what I was thinking. But again, like, super, super dense book. And then, of course, Lenore, like, in herself is, like, trying to find, well, one, there's like, a weird, like, mystery angle. Like, she's trying to find her grandmother, but she's, like, caught up in, like, all of these, like, random characters, and all of them are sort of equally, like, obsessed with her in some ways, especially the men. There's, like, a side character called Mr. Bombardini. A lot of the fucking names in this are weird too, which is kind of annoying as well. So one, you have weird names, then two, you have multiple names for multiple characters. But I think that was another part that was, like, very grabbing, was, like, reading and trying to interpret who is talking at the moment, like, based on, like, the name that they're using or the sort of, like, way that they're expressing themselves. You can really pick out a lot. But yeah, it's, like, a huge cast of characters, and, some of them going by multiple names, so sometimes it's a bit hard to keep track. But yeah, but just, like, a lot of these, like, men that are obsessed with Lenore for multiple reasons, and then Lenore, again, just, like, trying to find her grandmother, trying to figure out what she wants to do and what she wants out of her own life. But yeah, just a lot going on in this book, but still really interesting. And I think at some point, I mean, yeah, like, I think one of the reasons why it took me so long to read it was because I would just go back and reread like, certain certain pages, especially when I found them interesting. Like, there's moments in the book that I have marked with, like, post-it notes, but they are just stories, because Rick is really interested in stories, and that's, like, part of his job, and Lenore is interested in stories as well. But there's parts where he'll just, like, read these stories for, like, pages at a time, and the stories are very involved and complex. And very interesting, usually talking about people's, like, humanity and, like, their own individual quirks and how they work in relation to other people, like, within the stories, and then maybe, like, ideas of, like, loneliness or, like, a want for, like, attachment. But yeah, good book. honestly. Interesting book, but now I'm on to something else. But yeah, so that was pretty much the month. I mean, again, pretty light on like movies and music, but not a bad thing. Definitely want to read a bit more avidly. Yeah, again, like this book was just a little complex because like it's 400 pages, close to 500, and like a lot of the language pretty complex. So I was rereading a lot of the time. But then sometimes it was just really engaging, so I would just reread for the fun of it. But yeah, definitely going to keep reading and definitely going to keep trying to take things slow. I think I just need to take things slow for a while. But yeah, the whole gaming stuff, I might do a separate thing about gaming. I like just reached an hour. But yeah, so I might do a thing just talking about gaming and whatnot. But I feel like the thoughts are pretty simplistic, but it'll still be fun. And definitely talk about Dead Island 2 since I've gone through the effort of perfecting it. So there's some stuff to nitpick around there. Probably get like 20 minutes worth. But yeah, that's about it for July. Hopefully y'all had a good July and look forward to a good August. Take care.